Okay, well, welcome back to whatever this podcast is at this point. Now everything's been good. A lot of life changes have been happening. All good. Once again, this is really more of without getting too deep into anything else. Really more just the conversations I've been having with myself. I really want to turn this more into the idea of this is what I learned today. This is who I talk to. These are the habits I've been trying to train myself, the information that I've been trying to give myself. Once again, I don't know if any of this is right. I don't know if it's wrong. It may work for me. It may not, but I think at a certain point I've just become really tired with whatever the regular things, the habits that I've been forming in my life. And I've really been trying to kind of dig in and see why I'm doing those things, where my mindset is. So basically I want to take the time to basically almost record myself, trying to improve in any way that I can. Kind of get those thoughts out loud and let myself kind of hear myself talk about it. But I also think that maybe it could be valuable for somebody else. I kind of want to have conversations with myself that I wish I could have heard, to help me get into the best mental space, the best physical space. Just overall feel like you're in a good spot. I think for the past year, it may have been the most challenging year of my life. It's also reaped me the most benefits. I'm going to have Adriana on here, and I want to update anybody who cares to hear about that. But we're married now. We still got the house. We've got our great cats, amazing careers. There's really nothing, quote unquote, wrong, right? There's nothing objectively that you would look at and say, hey, this is something drastic that needs to change in my life. But I think sometimes I have never taken the luxury of chance or the luxury of choice in my own life. And now that I'm choosing to make that decision, my dad was kind of saying, what did he say to me? He was like, you're kind of, who are those American, oh my gosh, who are the two dudes who went out into America, and William and Clark? Maybe they didn't even find America, but you know what I'm talking about. That's kind of the way that I've just been looking at my life in an extremely short amount of time. This podcast, these outlets have always been something that have made me happy. I'm trying to straight up just pursue things that have made me happy. If you want to listen to that, I'm going to try to bring as much value to that as you can. I want to have people on. I kind of want to bring that same element that I always had, but I do want this to be something that I can do by myself, self-sustaining. I think I can make up every excuse in the book why I'd be nervous about doing this on my own. I can make up excuses and say that I love to talk to people, which is true, but it can be the crutch of never creating content if you're always relying on other people to be there to make the content. So I kind of got tired of that excuse with myself. Also, there's something weird about, I don't know, promoting myself, having that seem genuine. I think I look at a lot of things that are online, and maybe I'm hyper cynical. Maybe I don't know these people, but it seems like they're trying to sell you something. It seems like they want your attention for something other than to just give you good information or tell a story that was valuable to them. Sometimes that superficial stuff just grinds me down, and sometimes I struggle with the cliche idea of, well, if you don't like the content, make your own. Well, then I have to promote it the same way to get people to listen to me. So I'm trying to let go of that. I'm just trying to do my thing, make something that I would want to listen to. Because I think at the end of the day, the most successful podcasts or the things that I listen to or the information that I take in are from people who are just doing it for them to have fun, and to share something of value. So that's my mentality. That's the way that I'm going for it. So I appreciate anyone who else wants to come along. So anyway, I've been picking up a lot of books up and down, trying to really be like aware, cognizant of what I am putting into my head and how that's making me operate in my regular life, how I can be as efficient versus effective as humanly possible in my life. So that came down to picking up some of the most, once again, cliche best-selling books that I personally have never read. And I feel like if you're my generation of maybe even 16 to 30, maybe you haven't read these things or you've really taken the time to deep dive on them. Something about reading, which I don't know if this is for anybody else, but sometimes I know most of the time in the past when I would be reading, it's just to read the book to say I read the book, to finish the accomplishment of reading the book. And then I'd come back to it and I'd be like, I didn't get anything from that, right? So if my whole process of my life right now is to slow down, evaluate what I want, what do I think, what do I like, is also slowing down when you're reading a book, right? Rereading a chapter again. I have more highlighters and sticky notes and pens and annotations like I'm back in college, but it's doing more for me. If I read 3 pages really well, because I'm also a slow reader, and that's always been something that has made me nervous because that's not how I take in information well. I'm a doer. I'm a performer. I'm a feel it in your body type of guy. I'm not a read, write down, memorize person. Anybody who knows me knows I can't remember shit. So anyway, I've been reading this book. It's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which if you're one of the 40 million people who have read this book, congratulations. About halfway through it, but there were some things that when I was looking at this, just evaluating it in my own life, there's different pieces of who we all are, right? So when I think of who I am, what do I think about who I am? I can be incredibly social. I know I can talk to a wall and have a good conversation. I also think that the most draining part of my personality is my personality. So that can go both ways. I always worry about just drying people out when I'm with them, taking up too much air, taking up too much space, being aware and almost shutting myself down. But then also knowing that my personality is the thing that can win me the room, that can change somebody from being unhappy to happy, to listen to me if you didn't listen to somebody else. So anyway, when I was reading through this chapter, and this thing, I guess it's in the first habit. Not necessarily worried about the habit, but this concept of the personality and character ethics. So before let me see if I can actually do this. So thinking about these two different types of ethics, right? Your character ethics are your values or your principles, however you want to say that, of integrity, generosity, anything that would be something that you are instilling within yourself, right? So he's saying humility, integrity, fidelity, character ethic. I'm quoting from the book here. Character ethic as the foundation of success, things like integrity, humility, fidelity, temperance, courage, justice, patience, simplicity, the golden rule. The character ethic taught that there are basic principles of effective living, and that people can only experience true success and enduring happiness as they learn and integrate these principles into their basic character. Mic drop for me, right? So thinking about, okay, well, let me get to this. So that's the character ethic, right? The personality ethic is where success became more a function of personality, of public image, of attitudes and behaviors, skills and techniques that lubricate the processes of human interaction. Sayings like your attitude determines your altitude. Smiling wins more friends than frowning. But reference to the character ethic became mostly lip service. Reference to the character ethic. Remember, characters, simplicity, humility, temperance, justice, patience, became lip service. The basic thrust was quick fix influence techniques, power strategies, communication skills, and positive attitudes. So there's a lot there. When I read through something like this and I evaluate myself, I would say majority of my life, I've relied on the personality ethic, which up until very recently, well, no, that's not even true. It's gotten me as far in my life as I possibly could have almost wanted. I mean, it's done everything for me. When they talk about lip service, I think about that as finesse, right? The ability to go in and create an environment, to make a situation be something different based off the strength of your personality, your social influence, anything like that. And that's not necessarily even anything on social media. That means in real life, do you have that effect? I know that's something that I've used in my life. And yes, there's a huge benefit to it, but just speaking from my own experience here is I also think about how shallow that can make some of your interactions, especially in business, right? Like you can be told to go out and talk to this person and make this deal and make it happen, right? I feel like if you've gone up the chain business enough, eventually your boss doesn't give you the tools anymore. Your boss expects you to make it happen. You can ask for help, but at the end of the day, whatever tools you're given, that has to suit your personality. So just because I tell you how to do it and it worked for me, you have to then find those rules and figures and techniques and make that mold with your personality to get the result that somebody else wants. I'm just speaking from the business experience, right? So for me, that always came off as a little bit shallow, right? I always wanted authentic human experiences. I always felt like the best experiences that I got from any people that I was with, or any feedback I got, or any development that I had from any team that I was personally leading, it was hard to go. It's always hard to go back and forth, right? Of feeling like, hey, I have this person's genuine trust. Am I feeding them a bunch of nonsense? Just jargony, lip servicey, personality ethics stuff to get them motivated to get over this hump in their life. When then I think, hold on, what if I had always been utilizing or leveraging the character ethics side of, hey, who am I as a person, right? What are my values? Up until a month ago, I don't even think I could define a value in my life. It was all about obsessing over outcome, obsessing over success. What does that even mean? That was a different definition depending on what outcome I wanted, who the success was for, and did it make me happy? And all that became so confusing that I was like, okay, I can't rely on the personality anymore because the personality got me this far, which is fantastic, but the personality doesn't give depth, right? Character gives depth. And who are you as a person? And can you lead, I don't know, how far can you lead people based off of personality ethic or personality traits? I guess some of the greatest world leaders and the most diabolical ones maybe didn't have character that we would want to possess, but they did have the ability to influence people around them. Now, was there integrity? Was there lack of character? I think you can look at both sides of any subjective people in the world that you like, others may not like, and you can flip that script either way. But in my own life, it's more of, okay, so I'm trying to be as authentic and real to the people in my life overall, whether I'm leading you, whether I'm managing you, whether you're my wife. And we all know it's a very different type of relationship in whatever sphere of influence that you're in, whether it's your work sphere, your personality, or your personal life sphere, maybe it's athletics, maybe it's education, maybe it's extended family. We all feel ourselves putting on different hats, but which one do you lean on when the going gets tough? I can say for myself, it would be my personality, right? That's what I always thought of as my strongest attribute, but I don't know if it was my strongest attribute. I think it's what came to me naturally. I think it's what got me the quickest success, the easiest route, the road with the least amount of blockers on it. And that can be beneficial. It can get you to a place, But when I think about taking the time to think about my values, my principles, what do I want in my life, does any of that correlate to what my personality has gotten me? And that's a hard answer, right? I think everybody's going to have a different answer. I think for me, I'm never one to be ungrateful, dissatisfied. I think you ultimately have to have appreciation for whatever road life has taken you down, and everything is opportunity. I'm never going to sit here and say, I didn't make my own opportunity, that I didn't work hard. I bust my ass for anything that I've ever wanted. I'm willing to die on that hill. But ultimately, your accountability to yourself is the most important thing. And that's why I ask myself these questions. So is it your personality? Is it your character? It's the mixture of both. Now, if you ask Stephen R. Covey, he would say that while your personality, the personality ethic per se, is not unimportant, it's just not your primary greatness. It's your secondary greatness. Your primary greatness comes from your character development, right? Who you are, instilling the values of your life that you're looking to obtain, and making those be the radiant, making those be the illuminating factor in your life, the things that drive you and guide you. And then your secondary greatness of your personality ethic, who you are socially, is, as he would say, a lubricant to moving the wheels forward in your life. But relying on finding out who you are, what you value, what you're looking for, that's what leads you in the direction of no regrets, of not no confusion, but more clarity. Oh, this is so hard. This is so much harder than I thought. Actually, no, it's not as hard. It's just that I want to be able to talk to somebody, but once again, I realize that crutch of asking questions versus actually talking about something you want to talk about, it can really dilute the value. And I'm really trying to maximize the value because I'm so focused on getting the most amount of value that I can out of the things that I do. And I really want to be aware of what I'm trying to give out is something that would be of value to somebody else as well. Sorry, I know we said that, but I'm realizing it now, sitting in a room alone, talking to myself, but it is what I know I want to do. So we're going to continue. So right. So your primary and your secondary greatness. Let me start off with this quote by Emerson. I wish I could think of these things. I envision these guys were just sitting around and they must have had the most vocabulary out of anyone they knew. And we're just like, what's the smartest possible thing that I can say right now? And anyway, so Emerson once put it, quote, "What you are shouts so loudly in my ears, I cannot hear what you say." Let me do that one more time. This is Emerson. Quote, "What you are shouts so loudly in my ears, I cannot hear what you say." Right there, I'm triggered, right? I'm just like, wow. Okay. Thinking about people in our lives, right? Thinking about the people who say the things that you want to hear, but you know their intentions are not that. Listening to people tell you the things that you think are the right thing. Maybe it's because you haven't formulated an opinion of your own. Maybe you don't want to form an opinion because forming an opinion is hard. And then you have to stand up for yourself. And then people are going to question you and whatever. And do I owe those people an explanation? That's a totally different subject, right? But I think that's the internal monologue in our heads most of the time. So what you are shouts so loudly in my ears. I think about that, and I think what I come down to is just anybody in my life who, it's not a bad thing. It's not even looking at someone like they're fake or they're trying to get one over on you or they're grimy or something like that. It's just maybe they don't know who they are. And because they don't know who they are, they speak in a way that gets you to believe that they are. Does that make sense? Like, I'm willing to talk the talk but not walk the walk, essentially, right? Which is way easier. It's way easier to just say something versus doing it, right? Part of my self-talk with this is, sure, is this awkward? Yes. Does it make me uncomfortable? Yes. Do I want to do it? Yes. Does it bring me personal value? Yes. So I'm selfish in that regard. But anybody who has an opinion about this that hasn't sat down and tried to do this themselves, I don't need that energy. I don't need that perspective. It's so easy to say the thing that's never been done before is supposed to remain undone. Or someone has some opinion about something that you're doing, but they've never done it and you are doing it, or you have made the leap. Why am I taking advice from someone who's played it safe? Why am I taking advice from someone who's never pushed anything in their life, or nothing that I can relate to? We all go through our own struggles, but I'm just saying, if you're pursuing something, why are you letting people who have never done it, or are too scared, or the people who will make up excuses or risks or problems that don't exist but just get into your head because they want you to be back on their level subconsciously, right? Now that can be hard because I think those types of comments and things come from the closest people in our lives a lot of time, at least face-to-face people who are willing to doubt you. And I'm not saying that doubt is a bad thing. I think you should increase and broaden your perspective. I think you should talk to as many people as you can, but internalizing it is the issue, right? Allowing somebody's opinion to dictate your own self-belief, your own thoughts, your opinion of yourself. That's when it gets muddy, right? That's when it can get confusing, and that's where it just comes down to your self-esteem, which I am not the person here saying I have the highest self-esteem, but in the little bit of time that I've questioned and listened more than I've spoken, and tried to rely and listen to myself, my value, my character, what do I internalize about myself? I don't even know if I am happier. That's fair, but I feel more refreshed. I feel it's like a cleansing effect where you're aware of all of that that's happening, but you're not so reliant on it. Your life isn't contingent upon those ideas or outside perspectives and allowing that to stop anything that you've ever wanted to do. It can be something as silly as literally post the picture you wanted to post, but you posted something else because you think other people are going to like that one more, which I think everyone can relate to. Something as down to that, right? Or you go to the gym at a certain time because you think less people are going to be there. You don't want to be embarrassed. Like, we all do those things in our lives that are crazy if you say it out loud, right? If you said that out loud, somebody would tell you, oh, don't worry about it. They're worrying about that too, right? Do as I say, not as I do. What is that? What does that mean? Anyway. So, what you are shouts so loudly in my ears, I cannot hear what you say. Just the idea that obviously who you are is bigger than what you do or what you say, right? Be the person that you really want to be. He also gets into this idea of the primary greatness being your character, the secondary greatness or the support being your personality. In reaping for so long where we have not sown, perhaps we have forgotten the need to sow. Once again, in reaping for so long where we have not sown, perhaps we have forgotten the need to sow. All right. So you can look at that any way in your life. I look at that as personal. What have I done? How have I paid myself first? I think about that in terms of literally my finances, but also in my own social currency, in my value currency, in my character currency. Like, what have I done today? Or what am I planning on doing to reap what I sow, right? So the idea of, in my head, if I'm going to put something in the ground and plant that thing, what's hard is the execution. What's hard is the doing. What's hard is the discipline, right? Coming back to that thing in the ground, coming back day after day after day when it's raining, it's storming, maybe it is beautiful, maybe it is sunny, maybe you're there alone, maybe someday you have help. Sometimes that help goes away. But if I'm in control of myself and what I want to do, my primary needs to be creating the culture of discipline within me, right? Creating the principle of finishing what I start. And I think in certain realms, we do those things, right? You can look at your life and say, yes, I start to finish at work, or I start to finish at the gym. But do you do that in all aspects of your life? Do you do that with your relationships? Do you do that with your life partners? Do you do that with your friends? I can look at myself and poke holes in my own life and not beat myself up about that, but just be real about where have I prioritized, right? It's not a time management issue. It's a prioritization issue. And that's, I could go off on a whole other tangent about that, right? But what are you prioritizing? Reaping what you sow. What do you want to grow? What do you want to come out of the ground? What do you want to be in your life? And the things that I think about in my life where, what do I want? My relationship with my wife is the most important thing to me. I need to be a better, what do I want to be? Man, I want to be a better caretaker. I want my presence to be more present. I think that's what I'm working on right now. My presence is being very present, being a caretaker for her, not allowing myself to overwhelm and take over my reality, right? Sharing time with this person is the most important thing for me. That's the number one value that I have, is what's the person that I'm being to the person that I've promised everything to. And allowing that to be on the top of my mind is always a lot, because, right, you love this person. You don't want to, not that I would let her down. It's not like that, but just being the person that I want to be. And pushing the primary greatness of when I think about the character that I want to be, right? I want integrity. I want honesty. I want to be confident. I want to be loving. I want to be caring. Like, so whatever I'm doing in my life, or whatever I'm bringing home or spending time to with her, those are the things that whatever we're doing, I want to be the overarching principles of what we are existing in, right? So are we putting ourselves in situations or environments that are not conducive to getting those types of results? You're going to go through hardships. There are going to be times where it's going to be uncomfortable and you're going to have to talk and things are going to be rough. But if ultimately you can come back to being present in the values that you want to be for each other, they don't have to be the same values, right? And I'm talking about this with my wife because, like, it's the easiest possible thing that I think other people just replace wife with brother, sister, your boss, whoever, your best friend. What are the values that you want to bring to those relationships? And then what environments are you in? What's the tone of voice that you have? What's the conversations? Literally, it'll come down to, what are we watching at night, right? What am I reading? What am I listening to? What am I taking in? Because you're only going to get, there's going to be something that comes out of that, out of me, back into my relationship with this person. So really being aware of what I'm consuming and having that kind of eye in the sky view of my own life. Anyway, I hope that made any sort of sense. But let me see here. Many people with secondary greatness, that is social recognition for their talents, lack primary greatness or goodness in their character. Now, once again, I'm giving you one sentence of a quote within this entire book, but many people with secondary greatness, that is social recognition for their talents, lack primary greatness or goodness in their character. Now, I don't think it's that deep where if all you're prioritizing is your social recognition and your social presence, that means you're going to be, have lack of character or be a bad person. I do understand the idea that could be shallow, right? It's only surface level. It's only what you can see on top of the water. And I think that's why a lot of times too, when I read this about the lack of primary greatness or goodness in their character, I think it's hard, but something I've always kind of gone like toe to toe with anybody in my family, or like whatever, are like musical artists. So you can name any popular artist and find something that they've done in the past that you would think are despicable, right? But you always, or what I always say is, the artist isn't the art, right? You can appreciate a Michael Jackson album without having to deep dive into who Michael Jackson was as a person. I'm just of the belief, if it's that deep for you, if you don't want to, if who he is, if his character is so weak that you cannot appreciate his secondary greatnesses, right? If who he is the issue, that you cannot appreciate what he's done, then don't support that person, right? I'm not here to get into this whole back and forth about what's bad enough where you stop supporting this person. I'm just saying, when I read about secondary greatness and social recognition of talents, and that can make you lack goodness or character, I think that just comes down to living a holistic life, right? Does what you get out of your personality, does what you get out of your secondary greatness deteriorate your primary greatness? Are you so successful and overshadowed with what you do that who you are, you lose that checks and balance, right? I think with some of the biggest celebrities in the world, we can all point to huge names. That's, from my perspective, that's kind of what it seems like. It just seems like, bro, you lost touch with reality. Like, you are no longer of this world. You need to come back to whatever humbling place you possibly can get back to and find a way to reset, because you're amazing at this one thing. But if you're not palatable for the world, does that greatness do any good? Right? It may do good for some, but I guess it depends on how influential and impactful you want to be. Who do you want to talk to? Why does that matter? There's always going to be faults in everybody. And I think that's important. I think we should notice those things, recognize when people need help and help them. But at the end of the day, this is just like a reset to say, hey, if who you are is not as strong as what you do, right? If you are amazing at work and you are a shitty husband, is that a balanced life? Is that who you want to be? Are those values in line? I don't know. But those are the questions I've been asking myself. This is what I've been thinking about. This is what I've been learning. And that's what I learned today. This is kind of the idea of the podcast. Anybody I have on talking to, I really want to have good conversations, bring value. Like I've been saying, I don't want to reiterate it too much. But at the end of the day, I'm trying to push myself. I'm trying to make myself do the things that, if I'm looking down the line and I'm looking down at my life, what are the things I actually wanted to commit to? What did I enjoy doing? And this is one of them. So I'm really appreciative of anybody listening. If you know me personally, then I'm all good. There's been all sorts of craziness happening in my life, but there's been the rock solid people, everyone from Adriana to friends, family, who all said, like, why don't you do the podcast? Why don't you get back to the podcast? Why don't you do the podcast? And it's funny because I never thought of it as people actually listening or watching. It's just like a number or whatever. I don't know. They click on it, they click off of it. But all that support was really impactful. I'm going to try to be as consistent as I possibly can because it gives me a reason to continue to learn. It gives me a reason to continue to push myself. And at this point, whatever that motivation is good enough for me because I know it's coming from a place of really wanting to do better. Yeah. So thank you. Like I said, I'll try to get some interesting people on here, people I know in my life. Anybody, honestly, it's anybody I want to talk to, anybody who wants to talk to me, anybody who wants to have a good conversation. You're welcome. You're welcome on here as much as you'd like. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.